Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you are joining the call, please mute your phone. We are going to be having an excellent session with a good friend of mine, Dr. James Ignas Koola, who's going to share with us some of the steps to prepare for the United States medical licensing examinations. This is a one-on-one session. This is for people who know nothing about the USMLE process, all the way to those who are applying for residency right now. We did a similar session a few weeks now, and it was very well received. We have that recording on YouTube, but we did feel we did that session specifically from our colleagues in Tanzania. However, we want to now extend it more widely to the East Africa region, because we do have many colleagues from Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and so forth who are in the postgraduate medical education training here in the United States. Again, my name is Dr. Frank Minja. I'm a neuroradiologist based here at Emory in Atlanta. And without further ado, I want to welcome Dr. James Ignas Koola to lead our session. Karibu, James.
Thank you very much, Professor Minja. My name is James Ignas Koola. I have to kind of remind myself, because in Tanzania we say Koola, but here my patients calls me Koola. So sometimes I'll say I'm Dr. Koola. But I'm originally born and raised in Tanzania. I studied in Tanzania, did my medical school in Muhimbili. Then it was University College of University of Dar es Salaam. Somebody's drawing on my slide.
You can just try to reshare. Just stop the screen share and it will reset it. Yeah. And it's actually better now when you're doing the intro, just speak, and then that way we'll have you on speaker view.
Excellent.
Excellent.
So I went to Muhimbili, then it was University College of Dar es Salaam, graduated there. After my internship, took my first job in Kenya. So I worked in Kilifi, Kenya with Kemri Wellcome Trust for around 2.5 years. And the plan was to do MRCP. Then some things happened. I couldn't continue with the MRCP route and decided to pivot in public health. So I came to Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health for my MPH. And when I came for my MPH, I mean, I met some people who were already kind of going into the residency program. And they told me like, you know, public health is real good. You don't have to do clinicals. And so I got wrong information. So I didn't start preparing early. I was doing my MPH and I knew I'm gonna do public health. Then of course started working. I was working on a project supporting sites doing HIV drug and vaccine trials, Asia, Africa, and South America, traveling a lot. And then when I was doing that, I kind of found that I was missing clinical a lot. So I decided to go back, sit down, did my boards, applied for residence. And so I did internal medicine and preventive medicine in Griffin Hospital, Derby, Connecticut. So I finished, started working as a hospitalist, and then came back to Griffin. So I'm now an associate program director for the internal medicine, preventive medicine residence program here in Derby, Connecticut, near New Haven. So I'll be your host, and I'll do the first part of the presentation, which is kind of take you through the nature of things. And then if you have any questions about anything that I'm presenting, rather than waiting and forgetting about your question, just type it in the chat box. So we have a panel of moderators with us. They'll be going through the questions, and they will, at the end of the day, we will kind of, at the end, we'll go through the questions that you have presented in the chat, and then we will go through questions one-on-one from each of you, whoever might have questions. So I would like really to thank my co-presenters who are working here with me, and they are residents and fellows. They are available to answer questions. Some of them, I have some of them who are just kind of starting the journey, and they are more knowledgeable than me in various parts. And of course, as Dr. Minja has said, it's gonna be, it's a wide talk. We're gonna start from the basics, And if you are already in the game, you might find to be information very redundant, but believe me, it's useful for somebody else who is here in USMLE for the first time. So we are aiming to reach as many people as possible, because for a long time, it has been somebody who knows me, or somebody who knows Professor Minja, or somebody who knows someone who has done USMLE, to kind of get the information of what to do. So by doing these talks, this was preceded by another talk like about 4 weeks ago, is we are trying to reach the unreachable, trying to relay the information, and hopefully we'll be able, to strike interest on somebody to be able to pursue the process and kind of do their graduate medical education. So one of my two panelists who are helping us today, moderators, is Dr. Habib, who is a graduate of Muhimbili, class of 2020. He's applying this year, originally from Tanzania. And then I have Moza Abeid Hamoud, who is MD4, so is final year of medical school in St. George University in the islands. And he'll be graduating the end of June. And then on July 1st, he's expecting to start residency. So they do the application for residence as they are in their final year of medical school. Caribbean and the US, they do medical school for 4 years. It's not 5 years like East Africa. And so he's originally from Kenya, from Mombasa, Kenya, representing the Republic. So Moza and Habib, thank you very much for being with us. We also have with us Mangaro Mabusi. He's a PGY1 at Woodhull Hospital in Brooklyn, New York. Mabusi is originally from Tanzania, but he trained in Cuba. So after high school, went to Cuba for his medical school. And then he came, did his internship in Muhimbili, worked briefly with Aga Khan before transitioning, into residence now, PGY1 in Woodhull Hospital in Brooklyn, New York. So the way I knew Mabusi when he was in his 4th year. Apparently his grandfather classmate was my neuroanatomy professor. And so they were talking like, I have my grandson, he's trying to go into residence. And then I know this young man who is doing residence, and I will connect them. And that's how I came to know Mabusi. So for a long time, I've saved Mabusi in my phone as MD Cuba, because that's the way I can, decipher who is this person to kind of move along. Welcome, Mabusi, and thank you for being here with us. You see Mabusi with his ID, with his cup of coffee. He's about to start, his rounds in his hospital, and a picture with his colleague. I think it was his birthday when he just started his residency, and they had a small birthday party. So thank you very much, Mabus. With us also, I have Barbara Odak. She's from Kenya, graduate of Kenyatta University. She came to the US, I think she did MPH at Yale, and then I recruited her. So Barbara is my resident. She's PGY2, internal medicine, preventive medicine, looking to go into cardiology as fellowship. And thank you so much, Barbara, for coming to help our fellow East African, and as Professor Minja said, and also across other African countries to kind of navigate the process. I have with me Dr. Amir Mbonde. He's originally from Uganda, trained in Mbarara University. He did his MD there, and then he went back to Mbarara to do MMed internal medicine. And then, of course, did his exams, and he came to Mayo Clinic School of Medicine in Arizona to do neurology residence. So after his neurology residence, he went to Massachusetts General Hospital to do vascular neurology, which is they call it stroke as well. So he did a stroke fellowship. And then I think he missed the desert so much, went back to Arizona, is now doing a second fellowship in epilepsy. So he's a trained neurologist, originally from Uganda, product of Mbarara University. Thank you very much, Amir, for being with us. You can see this is a paper which Amir wrote, providing neurocritical care in resource-limited setting, challenges and opportunities. And these are really the things which people who train and get trained, and they have this high level of knowledge, they can give back and kind of help, trying to navigate the system, trying to improve care where we came from. So it's really important, and I applaud you, Amiri, for all what you do to advance, the neurology sector. So I was expecting to have Rashid Ahmed, but Rashid, happened to have an emergency call, is now doing neurocritical care fellowship at one of the Harvard hospitals, MGH, Massachusetts General Hospital. Rashid is originally from Tanzania, trained at KCM College in Moshi, Tanzania, my hometown. Actually, I was born in KCMC. So he trained there for his MD degree. And then he did neurology residency with State University of New York, Syracuse, and then is doing neurocritical care at Harvard, one of the Harvard University hospitals. And so his long goal is to do interventional neurology, to do endovascular. So he's trying to secure another fellowship to move and be able to do endovascular interventions. So thank you for all the panelists. So really, the aim is to talk about graduate medical education. And in most times, we refer to graduate medical, the other name for graduate medical education is residence. So we use the terms interchangeably, graduate medical education residence. And residence in the US for East Africa and most of African countries, it's equivalent to MMed. But although it's almost equivalent to MMed, it's different in so many ways. And in the due course of this talk, I will kind of allude to various parts whereby residency is different from MMed. And of course, residency is done in programs. And the programs can be either a clinic, a community hospital, or a university. And but as you see in East Africa, MMed is almost always done in university. And I put almost always in bold for a reason, because which I'll try to explain later. So unlike East Africa, whereby you finish 5 years of medical school, you do internship, and you go and practice as a medical officer, in the US, when you finish your medical school, you have to do residency before you practice. So in East Africa, you can practice as a medical officer. Literally, I can say almost there is no medical officers in the US. Everybody practices as a specialist, what you call a specialist, because you finish your medical training, you do your residence, and then you do your residence, like internal medicine, you do family medicine, or you do radiology, or you do surgery, and then you go and practice as a surgeon, or as an internist, or as a family physician, or as a radiologist. And that's how it moves across the specialties. And I say residency is done in programs. So the program are the one which are the training units, and the programs are run by program directors. So the program directors are the go-to people. They are the people who will recruit you. They are people who will train you. They are people who will sign off that you have finished your training, and they will attest that you can get licensed and you can practice safely. And so the program directors are helped by associate program directors. And of course, in the programs, there are also who we call program coordinators. And these are like the secretaries. They communicate. So if you are being invited to interview, most likely the invitation will come from the program coordinator. So they help the program director and associate program director kind of run smoothly the program. And as I said, MMed is almost always done in the universities in East Africa. There's one case which I found out that the College of Surgeons of East and Central Africa kind of runs a residency in surgery, although it's not a university. So they recruit surgical trainees. They send them to different hospitals. They have their logbooks. They do the procedures. They have their way of supervision. And then when they graduate them. So it's actually based, its headquarters are in Arusha, Njiro, Arusha. That's where the headquarters are. And that's the exemption, as I was trying to say. It's almost always because Koseka is there and has been training surgeons for now a while. So to gain admission to US graduate medical education, you need to take and pass your USMLE exams. I hope by now you have at least Googled what is USMLE. And USMLE stands for United States Medical Licensing Exam. So, and this is done by people, either you train in the US or outside the US, you have to go through USMLE. Any medical student from WHO accredited medical school director can apply and take USMLE exam. So this is the website for the WHO directory. And if you go, you click this or open this website, you can go in there and search either through your country or through your school name. So I went through and I looked Tanzania United Republic, and I can see they have 8 medical schools. So in the World Directorate for Medical Schools, I keyed in Rwanda, I see 3 medical schools, 2 in Kigali and 1 in Butare. If there's a school which is not here, there's a way your school administration can kind of communicate and put your school here. As long as your school is here, you are eligible to take the USMLE and go through the system. I went in and I put Kenya. Kenya, they have 11 medical schools. Several in Nairobi, there's a medical school in Kisumu, in Thika. Moza, I don't see a medical school in Mombasa, so I think should be work in progress. We need a medical school in Mombasa. I put in Uganda, and in Uganda, I can see 9 medical schools. So you can even type this name of the medical school, and you'll see if your school is in there. So once it's in there, then you are really eligible to go through. When you are done with the exams, then you apply for your residence, and the application is done through ERAS. ERAS stands for Electronic Residence Application System. That's where your application goes in. And of course, that's the link to the website. And after the application has gone through ERAS, then the matching is done through NRMP. That is National Residence Matching Program. And NRMP has been in existence since 1952. And it's through that, for almost 71 years, that residents are assigned to different programs so that they can go and do their training, the specialty they have applied for. So I'm mentioning a lot of acronyms. I'm going, ERAS, NMRP, all those things. But really, the basic thing is for you to be able to apply for residence is for you to go through graduate medical education, you need to apply to study and to pass your USMLE exams. So the application for USMLE starts with you getting USMLE number and doing document verification. So application for USMLE number is ground zero for you starting your journey of going into graduate medical education. But before you apply, before you go in and apply for USMLE number, make sure that your names are in order. And it's good if you have a passport, national ID, as names you use in your application should match the names in your passport to the last alphabet. And I put good, real in red and underline it for a reason. You don't have to have them. Because after my first talk, then I told people, hey, go and apply. And somebody is like, I didn't apply because I don't have a passport. You don't have to have a passport. What I said is make sure if your names are aligned, you have a national ID, your passport name is going to look like the name in your national ID, then go ahead and apply, And it's really important that your name is spelled correctly, consistently. And us in Tanzania, we are very casual with names. I'm not sure about other East African countries. Like you'll find somebody writing their name as John Casey, Casey with K-E-S-S-Y. And another place, he'll write his name as John Casey, but Casey with double S-I. And another place will write as John Casey, but with S-I only, no double S. These are 3 different people. In terms of the way the US look at names and kind of recognize, these are 3 different people. So, or you'll find somebody is called Mohammed and is Mohammed like in 4 different pronunciation. In one place, he writes Mohammed with double M, another place Mohammed with single M, another place Mohammed with single M and I at the end. These are 3 different names. So for you to take the exam, when you go to a testing center, the only form of identification they accept is a passport. So you have to make sure that you have a passport by the time you're sitting for exam, because that will be used. And I want to bring really to your attention the issue of names, because myself, I was a victim, because when I was born, my mom was very excited for some reason and gave me 5 names. James, Ignas, Bahati, Tadei, Koola. That's how my birth certificate is written. When I was in secondary school, I decided to cut my name and use my 2 first names, James Ignas. So my Form 4 and Form 6 certificate has James Ignas only. When I went to medical school, they said, you need to have a 3rd name. So I wrote James Ignas Bahati, but this time, not Ignas with S, with CE. And now when I was applying for USMLE, I had to decide which names I have to take. So I had to do a deed poll and say, now James Ignas Bahati, James Ignas Bahati Tadei Koola is now James Ignas Koola with NAS. And that's the name I use for my USMLE applications and throughout, and that's the name which appeared in my passport. So, I mean, I think in East Africa, we are mostly under British and we follow the same systems. So I think lawyers can help you. If your name is controversial, try to sort it, try to do it quickly, and so that you don't fall in the trap whereby you kind of fail in your process going forward. And of course, I mean, if you have some lawyer friends, you have been given free medical advice, this is time for them to pay back, get them to work for you and have a deed poll done in such a way that you can have your name adjusted appropriately. So it's really important. I cannot overemphasize that. So when you are registering for USMLE now, the application is done in the ECFMG website. And this is the website where it can be done. And for international medical graduates, who we refer to mostly as EMG in abbreviation, you can click the ECFMG website and start if you are a registered medical student. So there's no cutoff. When I was doing my first talk, I was to a delusion that you have to do first 3 years for you to apply for USMLE. That's not right. Any medical student who is registered to a medical school that is the directory of WHO, they can apply for USMLE number. So do yourself a favor. When you finish getting with this talk today, apply for your USMLE number if your names are in order. And after you apply and go as a medical student, you are allowed to take all the exams. And I put allowed in bold and in red for a reason, because in the later time, I'll try to explain why at some point I think you should wait for you before you take the exam. So I use IMG. IMG is International Medical Graduate. Anybody who trains outside the continental US is considered International Medical Graduate. Actually, I learned even Puerto Rico, which is a territory of the United States, if you train there, when you apply for residence, you are an IMG. So those who train in America, we call them AMG, American Medical Graduates. And those are the acronyms that you'll see coming through. So when you open the ECFMG website, this is where you will get. And the real sense is if you have never applied for USMLE, this is the place you're going to click where they say you don't have a USMLE number and you are planning it for the first time, that you are going to apply for the number. And this is where you should click to start the process. And when you click, the first thing they give you is the attestation. They are asking about names. You know, you put your name the way it appears in your current passport or the way it will appear in passport that you're going to have. You know, if yourself, you're called John George, your last name is George, George should appear as the last name in the documentation. John George and George John, they are completely different people. So the last name is very important. Don't get hyped. Somebody got hyped, was filling their ECFMG application, and they added junior to their name. Guess what? They got documentation back. You don't have junior in your document. Can you provide and say junior is your name? So he had to provide all the document to kind of attest and say, my name, I have no junior, to kind of pull junior away. So it's very important, it's very important that if you have normal name controversies, you consolidate your name. If you do a deed poll and publish in the government gazette, you can even go to your medical school registrar and tell them, hey, I changed my name by deed poll. Here's the document. This is how my name should appear. And then you streamline your things right from word go before you start going through all the controversies. They make you attest that you have read the information, you check boxes. It's legally binding. And when you do this process in 5 business days, you will get your USMLE number. They take 5 business days for you for them to give you the USMLE number. So the USMLE number you apply only once in your lifetime. If it's the only number you will use if you pursue USMLE. Never ever try to create another profile. They will catch you and it will not end well. You can change names, you can change gender if you want, but your USMLE number will remain the same. You just submit documentation for your name change and it will be linked to your previous number. Never ever try to do it again. They will catch you. So the USMLE number application is free. You don't pay a dime for it. And I'm guilty, I've been using this to gauge seriousness of people. I mean, before I could have this forum, people will kind of contact me, I want to do USMLE, and then I will go about, explain for like an hour, what you're supposed to do or whatever, where to start and all those things. And then a month later, I will ask them like, hey, have you got USMLE number? I'm still waiting around. And from experience, if by 1 month they don't have USMLE number, 99.99% will never do it. So if you think you want to pursue US graduate medical education, I highly recommend you apply for your USMLE number today. And so once your number comes, then you will come again to the same website in the ECFMG. And this is the part where if you have no profile, that you will go in there and start creating to establish your account, put your username, put your password, and then of course you can start logging as as a pro because you have your details to go into ECFMG. Once you establish an account, then what follows is document verification, whereby it's shown like you're a medical student, you go to a real medical school, you're not a plumber, so your school administration will work through this to kind of submit the document. So mostly it's the deans of medical schools are the one who they become like certifying officials. If you have graduated, in a part of the submission, your degree certificate will be submitted as well. If you have not graduated, it will not be there and still the process can move on. So the document verification process can take a long time and it depends on many issues. That's one thing that is out of your control. You cannot really control the way it goes. The speed of response from your dean, is the dean who in office, the one who is verified, because I faced this problem when I was applying now through ERAS for the electronic residence application system to match, whereby the dean who certified me, his term ended and another dean came in. So it was Professor Karim, who's a pediatrician, who was a dean before. Then Professor Kaya was a psychiatrist, became a dean when I was applying for residence. And guess what? Professor Karim was certified, but Professor Kaya had not been certified. So I had to kind of maneuver through and make sure that documentation is sent, Professor Kaya sign in as the signing official and could sign my documents. And this, you have to be industrious. You have to be a pioneer. You have to be able, and one thing I'll really advise is as you are trying to go through the process, try to be friendly with the secretaries, for the dean, for the principal, because they are the one who will push your papers for you. So I happen to be real friendly with the then who was the secretary for the dean, and she really helped me push the envelope and have the documents done, and then I could apply in time. And I think last time I met somebody from Mbeya Medical School, which is part of University of Dar es Salaam, who is trying to kind of submit verification for the leadership for his school because nobody has gone through the process from their school. So it's not abnormal that nobody has done that. So be the first one to do it and prepare, lay the ground for other people. I think our panelist, Barbara here, when she was applying, she had to go through the process of verifying officers, you know, from her school so that her application can go through. So these are the challenges you might face, but be industrious, follow through, and it will happen. So the document verification process is not free. You pay like around $160. Once you verify your documents, they are valid for 7 years. I think they have enough longevity for you to finish your exam. Let's say if you do in PGWA MD2, you have, you know, 4 years after graduation to kind of complete your exams. That's more than enough time. So what I'll say to everybody, there's no like being too early. Don't procrastinate. It will really hurt you. And of course, completion of document can take a long time, and don't let that delay you. So there's really no reason to procrastinate. You know, when you're in the school there, you know the dean, you know the secretary, you know everybody, you can push and make things happen. I cannot overemphasize the importance of starting this process early and kind of pushing it that way. And so do not sabotage yourself. I mean, it's really deflating when you have prepared for the exam and you know you are ready to take the exam, and then you find out that you cannot register for the exam because your document has not been verified. It's so deflating. That is like you are sabotaging yourself. Don't put yourself in that position. Make sure your documentations are in order so that when you apply, you are ready to apply. I mean, when you are ready to sit for the exam, you don't have to delay for any reason. You sit for your exam and you get your things going. So the USMLE is now, the United States Medical Exam. The first exam is called USMLE Step 1. And this is basic sciences: anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pharmacology, pathology, micro, AP, biostat. You know, currently the exam is pass-fail. But I will advise you to go to do Step 1 with the same intensity that you'll do CK, which is scored, because there is so much of Step 1 basic questions reflecting in Step 2 CK. So if you do, you are knowledgeable, your knowledge level is good, then you'll be in a position to pass better in your CK. You'll have a good foundation and be able to get good scores when it comes to CK, which is scored. So although Step 1 is basic sciences, and we finish in East Africa, I think we do basic sciences for the first 3 years, you know, first 3 years of medical school. I will advise as much as possible that you consider doing your Step 1 after you have done your clinical rotations. Why do I advise this? Basic sciences that appears in USMLE is clinical applied basic science. So there's a lot of clinical knowledge that you have to know for you to answer the USMLE Step 1 questions. And our training, the way it is, really, when I was doing my training in Muhimbili, we didn't touch a patient for the first 3 years. Actually, in the 3rd year, that's when we did management of disease, which was kind of the way we, to manage disease, which was the clinical kind of side, but that was the exam which had no university exam. So in 3rd year, we'll do pathology, we'll do pharmacology, and then management of disease. So management of disease has no university exam. And so that was the class which we kind of did not take it real seriously. And thinking in retrograde, the questions in the management of disease reflects the USMLE style questions, you know, but we didn't pay much attention. So in the US, starting from year 1 of medical school, medical students start having patient encounter. They go to the clinics, and the way they are trained, it's mostly like applied. You learn about Krebs cycle, you learn diseases due to enzyme deficiencies in the Krebs cycle, you learn their clinical presentation. So it's kind of integrated. I mean, when I was doing biochemistry in 1st year, I didn't know how the diseases look like. I didn't go into pathophysiology of the diseases, but they do them there when they are doing their biochemistry. So you find that they are very integrated and they can answer the question. But for us, because we kind of do them in silo in most places, I will advise that you do your clinical rotation in such a way that you can integrate and answer the questions. So step 2, CK, clinical knowledge. CK stands for clinical knowledge. It's clinical exam now. It's internal medicine, peds, surgery, OBGY, as some AP and biostat. And the exam is predominantly internal medicine. 50 to 60% of CK is internal medicine. The questions, they are third-degree level of knowledge. They are not straightforward questions. They are not filling the blanks. There's no true false. They are solid EMCQs. USMLE, when I was preparing for USMLE, before I did that, I never believed that MCQ questions can be strong. But the way they write their questions, they are so robust in such a way that they really test your knowledge. Because when I say third degree or fourth degree level of knowledge, it means you need to know like 1, 2, 3 to answer the fourth. And I'll give you an example, which I had on my previous talk. You have a 4-year-old African-American boy who is presented to the hospital for the 4th time in 6 months. So he's been readmitted for the last 6 months. He's been admitted for the 4th time. In the previous 3 visits, he had swelling of fingers and yellowish coloration of the eyes. This time he has pain below the knee of the left, and X-ray is showing evidence of periosteal elevation. So you are given different labs. I mean, they give you electrolytes, the BMP, the CMP. You see, he had some mild transaminitis. Electrolytes are fine. There's slightly elevated bilirubin. You see there's some anemia there, hemoglobin of 8 for this 4-year-old, but the rest of the cells, platelets, and white count are normal. And then you are told that biopsy is taken from the lesion, and then what's the gram stain of the most common organism? As a step 1 question. And so you look through, African-American, I mean, so he's having swelling of fingers. Is having yellowish coloration of eyes. It's jaundice. Swelling of fingers, that is dactylitis. You get dactylitis, African-American, you're thinking of sickle cell. So this child has sickle cell. And then with the knee below, the pain below the knee with periosteal elevation is a sign of osteomyelitis. Now, gram stain is done. What's the gram stain of the organism? And then common organism, because it can be anything. What's common? I mean, for sicklers, common is salmonella, which is gram negative. So he does not ask you, what's the gram stain of salmonella, which you will say is gram negative. But he wants you to figure out that that is sickle cell, that this is osteomyelitis, and that is salmonella, and salmonella is gram negative. So you answer. And now, if it's CK, we'll test the question, and then we'll ask you, after gram stain is taken, what is the next what is the next appropriate step? What are you going to do in terms of management? What are you going to do in terms of management? But you have to make the diagnosis. So if you are MD2, you have not kind of, integrated the clinical, these questions will be hard for you. And that's what I mean when I say you are allowed to take, but wait till when you have done your clinical rotation, continue preparing. When I say wait to take, I don't mean you stop. You start preparing, you continue preparing, but then you will be in a position to kind of, post good marks and really do well when you have done your clinical rotations. So you need to do 2 exams, step 1 and step 2 CK. Before there was CS, which was clinical skills, which has been removed since the pandemic. And then you do an English test. And then from there, you get ECFMG certified. There's USMLE step 3, which is done mostly, people do them in residence, but for international medical graduates, I mean, sometimes they do it before residence. And we really advise you to do that if you can, if you have time, because, it kind of, it sells you. It kind of shows to the program directors that you're able to do full residence training. Even if you join residence after step 1 and step 2, if you don't pass step 3, you will not be able to complete residence to get an independent license. So if you are done with step 3, program directors and associate program directors will see you as good that you can finish your entire training without any problem. So when you are done with step 1, step 2, and CK, I say you get ECFMG certified. And of course, step 1 and step 2 CK can be done, so far as I know, in Nairobi and Kampala. They have testing sites. So I know people from Tanzania. Habib went to do his step 1, I think, in Nairobi. He did his CK in Kampala. That's why he got the appointment within the time when he was thinking, you know you are ready, you want to take the test, and then you see it's 1 month far away. This one is 1 week away. Like, I'm going to go there. I want to take my exam and move on. So I'm not sure about Rwanda. I didn't explore, but everything is easily Googleable. So you can Google and find which sites you can take the exam. And of course, as I said, when you do your step, I advise international medical graduates to do step 3 before they start residence, because also when you start residence and you have step 3 waiting for you, it kind of distracts you from learning the system, the steep learning curve as you are trying to go to start your residence. And so if you have kicked your step 3 away, then you can concentrate, learn the system, be a good resident, do well, and move on like that. So this is an example of how the ECFMG certificates look like when you are done with your 2 exams and your English test. It will show the dates when you took the exam, and kind of you need this for international medical graduate to be able to apply for residence. You cannot apply for residence without being ECFMG certified. So given the uniqueness of USMLE questions and the way we train, we really need USMLE specific materials to prepare. If you don't prepare well, then you don't pass / you don't get the marks that you need to give you a competitive edge. And of course, what I learned is reading the books like Kumar and Clark and Harrison, it'll give you the knowledge, but it won't help you to answer USMLE questions. So you need USMLE geared materials to kind of prepare. And one of the things that you should have in your arsenal, as you are thinking you want to do graduate medical education, get your first aid book. And this is the first aid. So it's published yearly, like you'll see 2023, 2022, 2020, whatever you get. Basic science, luckily, it doesn't change that much. It's almost the same. So whatever you get, you have to read your book, read it again, highlight, write in such a way by the time you are sitting for the exam, everywhere is written. You have to understand this book inside out. You can get the first aid through Amazon. This I just Googled in my Amazon account. And there are other people are saying they get safety copies. Actually, they can annotate even in the soft copies. I'm old school guy. I like papers. Like I don't read well electronic information. So if you're good with soft copy, you can buy a soft copy online and you keep it. It's yours. I mean, 2-3 years, you don't really need to change it. You are used to it. You know where your things are. You have annotated. You have your notes. You have your sticker note. You have your highlights. And you know every corner of your book, and that's what you need to have. So why all these hassles? I mean, prepare for all these exams, read all these long questions, do a lot of reading. Preparing for USMLE enhances your medical knowledge. I cannot overemphasize this. You are able to integrate things. You can develop differential diagnoses. You can look at things in different ways. You become a knowledgeable doctor, and a knowledgeable doctor is a better doctor all the time. And what I tell my residents and everybody, like my trainees, is the eyes does not see what the brain does not know. Full stop. You will see and say, this is a rash, and somebody will look at it and say, this is celiac disease, and make a diagnosis. You don't know, you see it as a rash. You see in the imaging, you say this is a mass, and somebody will look and say, this is interception. So it's medical knowledge is very important. And as an educator, like I train resident, I can tell when I have a resident whose medical knowledge is shaky, I can tell the difference from far away. So you being able to kind of, as you prepare for USMLE, it makes you very knowledgeable. It makes you a better doctor. It takes away unnecessary anxieties. Because when you don't know, really, you don't know, And USMLE is real detailed. There's no way you can fluke into USMLE. the way they make the questions and the way you do them and the sheer number they are, you have to be knowledgeable for you able to pass it. And of course, I mean, you study more. And as physicians, we came into this career knowing that we are students for life. You know, learning is part and parcel of you. As your physician, we'll continue learning. COVID came. Nobody knew COVID in January of 2018. But COVID came. We never went back to medical school. We studied about COVID. We took care of patients of COVID. We did research in COVID. We did all those things. So medical knowledge is evolving. And if you don't get anything from this lecture to the end, make sure that as a physician, as a medical student, you're a student for life. Take it a passion for you to study. Make it a mission for you to make yourself better. And that's what it's supposed to be. And so when in Tanzania, for example, they have what they call pre-intern and post-intern exam. I'm not sure if other countries have it. They are trying to streamline because now they have many medical schools. They have people training abroad. All of them are in the same level. So if you are preparing for the USMLE exam, the pre-intern and post-intern is just a walk in the park. You go there, you answer the question, you finish in no time, and you pass extremely well. Nobody preparing for USMLE has failed those exams. So most importantly, though, when you are doing the exams and you are preparing for USMLE, you place yourself, you know, to be able to enter into US graduate medical education. Other countries in the sub-Saharan Africa, like Namibia, I think Swaziland, if you go and you want to practice, they give you a clinical exam. And those people preparing for USMLE, they hammer those exams, like they really pass them well. So you position yourself, you give yourself option. And of course, you make yourself a better doctor and you're a better doctor to your patients. So remember I said, residence GME is similar to MED, but which is given in most East African countries for graduate medical education, but is different in many ways. So unlike MED, when you are doing residence, you don't pay fees. Instead, when you match in a program to start a residence, you start being paid salary. Somebody pays you to study. So I think that's an advantage because if you finish medical school, you go to MED and your parent is paying your tuition and they are also asking for pocket money. I mean, growing up, there's one thing which I really wanted to happen to me is to be independent, not to ask for money. So you are a grown adult, you're 26 years old, you are doing your MED training and you are lining up with your father with your 11 years old young brother who is going, you know, standard 7, asking for pocket money because you're doing MED and they are paid tuition for you. So I think when you do this, you kind of empower yourself and put in a position whereby you are training, you are being paid as you're doing your training. So I think it's worth the hassle. Training in the US now, if you happen to finish your training and you join graduate medical education, really gives you exposure to highly specialized training. You know, you can get skills, you can transfer skills back home. And of course, like I'll give you an example. Up to this point, I don't think we have MED in neurology. But guess what? Somebody like Amir Mbonde, one of our panelists, who is a neurologist, in the US, you train as a neurologist for 4 years from medical school for you to become a neurologist. So they are highly trained. They can really, you know, figure out things. But also I say, you are exposed to get highly specialized. So you do like internal medicine, and then you do a fellowship in cardiology. And then after cardiology, you do electrophysiology, where you deal with just electrical activity of the heart. Or you deal structural cardiology, where you deal with, you know, the cardiomyopathy and all those things. And as I was introducing, like Rashid is doing neurocritical care. He wants to do endovascular, which is interventional neurology. I mean, you have a blockage of a large blood vessel. They go in there, they do thrombectomy. You live to die of other things, or you gain good recovery. And so the graduate medical education gives you exposure, I mean, access to this training. And of course, in the long run, we can transfer the skills and kind of continue building capacity at home. You know, it's really, really important. I mean, to be able always to give back and help. So as a US trained and certified physician, you can practice in many countries in the world without doing exams, because they know that the US residence training is very rigorous, it's well controlled, and those people who finish, they are highly qualified. And so, you know, you can really you can expose yourself and give yourself and make yourself a global physician where you can practice anywhere. And of course, the systems, they are well set. We in the medical education, we strive to make sure that you succeed. You know, we try to help you reach your goals, and that's what we look forward to. So what are we gonna do? What is gonna come next? In the near future, what I'm planning to do is to do a talk on how to prepare for the exam. Just to do a talk and talk how to prepare for the exam. Study strategies. I mean, and then I'll bring my panelists, people who have gone through, and to show you how they went through and kind of pick on that so that you can prepare yourself and put yourself in a way to succeed. When we do this talk, it will be only for the people who are in the process. I said we did the first talk on October 7th. After the October 7th talk, so far up to yesterday, I have received 44 USMLE numbers. I put these people in a special category. And when I invite people to come to talk about how they should prepare and study for their exams, I'll talk only to people who have USMLE number. If you don't have USMLE number, why should we waste our time? You know, time is really important, you know. So I will give 2 to 3 weeks from today, hoping that people who have listened today, did not have the information, will have their 5 business days required for them to get their USMLE number. And then you will send your number, and then we'll kind of include you in the group that will continue the conversation about the things to follow. And then after we talk about how to do the test, somewhere early next year, those people who have done the exam, because people are in different milestones. They are PGY1, they are MD1, MD2, there are people who have finished, there are people who have finished their internship, there are people who have finished their MMed. So when they have done their boards, when they have sit for the exam, then we'll bring them in and tell them how to apply for residence, you know, how to make your CV, how to get reference letters, how to get observerships, things you need to do to stand up. So we, from the program side, we will use our skills to show you, you know, a preamble of how you need to position yourself to succeed. So that will be something that we'll do as that will be a third talk in the series. And really the aim is to prepare you, you know, to be able to apply and go along. So first things first, you know, you have to get your USMLE number. You have to apply. You need to put in to start studying, preparing. And then, of course, when you have done your exams and that nature, then you can be in a place to do other discussions and move on. So, as I said, 5 business days. When you get your USMLE number, email it to us. We have a dedicated email, usmlepursuit@gmail.com. So the email that comes from ECFMG with your number, you just go there and forward it to this email. And then we'll take your name and your email and we'll put you in the specific group of people who have USMLE numbers so that we can invite you for session 2. And then when you have done your exam, we'll give you from that group, bring your information, and then you go to session 3. We talk about how application of residence. I cannot overemphasize the importance of being industrious, the importance of following up. I mean, we are in this technology age whereby we have access to everything. We have access to information. Information is in our fingertips. Please Google before you ask. You know, try to read information. Try to read information, understand, make a follow. When you're stuck, then come and communicate. But if you ask me something that I know you can Google and find, most likely I won't answer. You know, so try to be industrious. Try just to understand that everybody is so busy and we are trying, you know, you have to help yourself for you to be helped. So I think, Professor Minja, I will stop here, and we can kind of start reviewing questions and you know,
great
along those lines.
Great presentation, Dr. Koola. I mean, really, really impressive, and you're on time. So exactly 10 o'clock on the dot. So that's really, really phenomenal in terms of like, doing that. There are a couple of questions and notes we were taking as we were going along, and we would love for you to kind of chime in, and maybe if any of the participants wanted to ask their question live, you can raise your hand. If we have time, we'll invite you to ask your question live. But I was trying to reflect on some of the things that came up last time in the talk, and also some of the participants have been asking questions. So perhaps maybe you can address this. So one of the first question was, basically somebody was wondering whether you get financing for I think you addressed it, the whole thing about, are you paid to be a resident, or do you actually have to pay to apply for the residency? People are asking whether it's a scholarship or a loan and whatnot. So maybe just emphasize the fact that residents and fellows in the United States are paid to do their training, because many folks in East Africa, they have to pay tuition fees to support themselves, or have the hospital pay for their residency and so forth. They basically have to get sponsored to get additional training. And maybe just to emphasize that fact that, this is on-the-job training, and you are paid a salary to go to school and take care of patients. Over to you.
Yeah, so I think you nailed it, and that's what it is. And that's one of I highlighted it. I think probably they asked the question before I reached that slide, that because, I mean, even you consider like MED. I mean, you are MED, you are there in the floor, you are seeing patients, you're doing procedures, you are there, you're busting, you're doing 24 hours calls, and still you pay somebody fees for you to get that training because it's considered training. But in the US, the way they look at it, this is labor. So you work, I mean, you are training also, you are trainee, but you are kind of working and seeing patients. And really the funding for the graduate medical education comes through Medicare, because they value the people, knowing that they help lower the cost. They are part of the medical team and they are providing care. So you get paid a salary. It's not a loan. It's just a salary like a normal employee, but something which you can. So you are able to take care of your basics and do your things, and you live comfortable really while you are training, without hustling or trying to do an extra thing, anything like that. So it's really an advantage, and that's what I try to kind of point it out and tell people, hey, you're gonna go do MED, ask for fees and ask for pocket money for you to survive. You don't have to do that. Just give yourself a favor, sit down, do your exams. Of course, doing the exam is not free. Registering there, verification is $160. I think exam step 1 is like $1,000. You have to do some initial investment. But guess what? If you do the exam and you do the math, and the money that you will pay when you go for your graduate medical education, you might find you are breaking even / you are more expensive in going through the traditional graduate medical education in East Africa. So that's an advantage which is standing out there. And I cannot explain more than that. I think it's clear cut.
Yeah, that's very important that people kind of understand that. And the salaries, if you convert it to T shillings, it's a lot of money. Obviously, it depends on where you are living in the United States. The salary will be adjusted for cost of living, but it's more than enough for you to take care of yourself, and many people can take care of their families as well. So Moza has done a good job of actually capturing the questions in the last chat there. The other question that came up is, what if you applied for USMLE number, but for whatever reasons, your names do not match the names on your passport? Do you have a plan B, or that's it?
Yeah, so if you applied and your names don't match, then you have to do what we call name authentication, whereby now you go through your governmental process. That's what was with me, because my name on my passport and the name in my certificates were not the same, and I had to kind of align them. So it's you go through a legal process. Lawyers have what they call a deed poll, where you go and attest that I've used this name, or I've used this name, or I've used this name, and now I want to be known by this name. And then that legal document plus a backup from your dean who verified the official from your school. When they go to ACFMG, then they will change your name. They have processes for change. Remember I said, your USMLE number remains with you forever. Either you change name, you change gender. I was trying to go extreme. But whatever changes, your USMLE number will remain the same. So they are open. They know people changes. People are dynamic. They can change names. They can get married. They can get divorced. They can do whatever. And when you change your name, you submit the documentation, the legal document, the name will change accordingly. It's not a problem. There's a process to it.
Excellent, excellent. That is great. And again, maybe in addition to this, perhaps just outlining the costs. I think to include in future presentations. These costs are available on.
We lost you, Frank. Yeah.
So maybe just to kind of outline, just the numbers so people kind of know some of these costs that are sort of involved. But again, given that you will earn a salary when you do succeed in this process, the cost is very minimal in that regard. So along the same lines, people are asking, can you comment on, is there financial aid for this process?
Never, I've never heard of it. I mean, it's not, I mean, it's, what I'll say is, as much as we try to say there's equality, there's everything, the world is not equal. It's, you have to look through, do your homework. And this has been the thing that I've been trying to do. Let me share this and it will explain very nicely. So when I didn't have this format in place and somebody will come, oh, I have my relative, or I know this person wants to do USMLE. And then I'll tell them, go Google and find out, write a 2-page document, what you find out about USMLE. How many exams are there? Where do you take them? How much do they cost? The cost for applying for residence, and kind of make a summary for yourself. So with this information and with Google, you can go and kind of even create an Excel sheet to show yourself what will be the real cost as you go through these things. So it's really, there's no financial aid. And when you look at the numbers, then you can say, realistically, I don't think this is reachable for me. It's not for me, I'll live on to do other things, and you move on. But what we want to do is for those people who have capacity to do, not to kind of put them at disadvantage, show them, hey, there's this opportunity. If you want, take it and go away with it. There are some things you need to do. I mean, you need to study and dedicate yourself and be able to pass well and kind of follow the process. So there's no financial aid in one night. Yeah. Unless you get a sponsor. I mean, you can have a sponsor and somebody will sponsor you. Yeah. But, you have to be convincing. You have to be convincing. You have to show initiative. You have to show effort, and obviously you might find an angel investor there.
Exactly. Yeah. The other piece of it is applying for the USMLE number is free. So really, I actually come from the angle of preparing for step 1 and step 2 allows you to just become a better doctor. So at a minimum, I would say another take-home message here is even if you do not go through the whole residence application, is to apply for the USMLE number and start using the first aid for step 1. Because that alone will just make you a better medical student. And chances are you'll be a better medical doctor, period. So regardless of the $1,000 fee for the exam, and if you end up being so well prepared, you may be motivated to actually then use the $1,000 to apply for the step 1 exam. But at least you want to set yourself up to do well in general. So I think at a minimum, invest your $40 or $50 and buy the step 1 textbook. So that way you have that resource and so forth. So along the same lines, there was the issue around timing. So assuming MD1 and MD2, people use that time to apply for the USMLE number, they get their passport, and then they MD3 and MD4, they're studying for step 1. When is the best time do you advise people to take the step 1 exam? MD4, MD5, after graduation? Well, what are your thoughts regarding that for East African applicants?
I think I'll advise strongly when they finish MD5 to take their step 1. Because as I try to articulate, there's so much applied basic science into it. So far, I don't think the training has changed that much. We don't do such integration. And so if you do it early, you might pass. but you might not pass to your full potential. So I will advise. And as I'm thinking, I've been thinking through, because our second talk, we're going to talk how to prepare for the USMLE, the things you need to put in to prepare. And kind of, I'll have a version for those people who know early about USMLE, like you are MD2, you are MD1, and you're deciding, you know what, this is my thing, I'm going to do this. You'll have a different preparation trajectory than somebody who has finished medical school, is doing their internship right now, and is kind of starting to prepare for the exam. So you see, so this one, they'll be able to use the preparation as part of continuous, being a good medical student, you know, throughout, building a very strong foundation. And then they do, you know, the last home stretch to kind of go and sit for their exams, which I think will really have us have robust doctors. That's what I'm looking at as the advantage. And so for those people in medical school, I think finish your MD5 and try to squeeze it in there between MD5 and your intern to kind of, you know, take your step 1, and then within a few months, as you're doing your internship, do your CK. Because really, what you are trying to target is to apply for your residence at least not more than 3 years after you graduated. You want to be in the fresher part. When you are a fresh graduate, you are considered by more programs than if you are an old IMG. I mean, I started studying for my steps 10 years after I graduated. So I came in as an old IMG applying, and I know the things that I faced. I mean, it was challenging, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. So it's really important you pass your steps well, you pass them quickly, you put your application in as soon as you can. The sooner, the better. You cannot be earlier. There's no way that you can. There's nothing like too early. Too early is good.
Excellent. Now, thank you for answering that. This question keeps popping up in terms of timeline. Whenever people reach out for assistance, and I tell them it will probably take you 18 months to 2 years from when you start the process to when you'll be ready to apply for residence. And many people are kind of like surprised why it takes so long to do that. So I think just explaining that timeline, especially for people who are younger or earlier in their career, it's important to kind of understand that each one of these steps probably takes 6 months to clear at a minimum, you know, between like step 1 and step 2 and so forth. So if you give yourself that leeway and you're at least using the bulk of your training, basically doing the first aid as you're doing it, it's going to help a lot. So one more question from me, and then we're going to go back into the chat here. Somebody has mentioned there's some rumors going around regarding verification of medical schools, whether or not USMLE is going to continue using the World WHO registry. Maybe they're moving away from that. I don't know if you or Mabusi want to take that. Mabusi seemed to say that he can take the question. Karib Mabusi.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I can. Mabusi, go ahead.
Mabusi, you're mute at the moment.
Oh, thank you so much. So yeah, that's like actually a very good question. So from what I know, and this can just be found online on the ECFMG website. The ECFMG started to announce that they're gonna change how they verify medical schools and applicants. Previously, they were just you were just like using your school and the applicant between ECFMG and the school, but they want to use. I can share my screen if it's possible. Okay.
Oh, should I stop sharing? Am I still sharing? I think I still.
Yeah, but I can just read and I'll put the link on the chat if I can share. So they're now trying to use this World Federation of Medical Education or something like that. They call it WFME. So what they are trying to do is a local accreditation agency has to be recognized by this. And then all schools from that country, then they'll be recognized by the ECFMG. So you can go to the ECFMG, but you know, people are saying like maybe from actually this will start in 2024, 1st of January. But according to what I knew before, I knew like if you won't have like you won't have like the ECFMG ID. I mean, after the 2024, then you have to meet this criteria. But what I saw in the ECFMG website is they are saying like they will start reporting it, but they will not use it to like not be able for you to register for the ECFMG certification. But maybe, I don't know, maybe in the future, then if your school is not recognized by this, maybe probably you will not be able to register for ECFMG certification. But from what they say in the website is like they will start reporting, but it will not hinder you to register for the ECFMG certification. And in the website of these people, you will find like countries which are recognized recently and countries which are applying. I think in the East Africa, I didn't see any country which is like accredited or is applying for accreditation. The accreditation is expensive, about $6,000 US, and it takes up to 18 months. So several months, up to 18 months. So it's a long process. But again, to be in the safe side, I would just get my ECFMG identification number before 2024, just in case. But again, if you want more information, you can go to the ECFMG website, accreditation section, and they explain everything. And you can call ECFMG in case you have more questions. They are really friendly. They can answer all your questions. And yeah, that's what I would suggest. So I'll just share the links and yeah.
Thank you, Mabuse, for that. And yeah, please do share the links on the chat so people can click directly into that. I appreciate the participant who shared this information. Many times online, there is a tendency to hype up things to discourage applicants. So for example, that news that only Egypt is going to qualify and whatnot. So people may be spinning it to kind of discourage people from other countries from applying. But you know, as far as we know, the process basically still stands. This may change in the future, but for the current, I would not be discouraged by that news. Just something to notice. But again, as you notice, it takes like, you know, 12 to 18 months for these changes to be effected. So that's going to be 2025. Right now, we're still in 2023. And it still doesn't really apply. So one thing that people commented, maybe you can comment, Dr. Koola, is around opportunities for doing an externship, a US experience. So how can people go about that? Is that something you and your team can assist with?
Yeah, so I mean, that's, I think I wanted to kind of have a controlled explosion way of giving the information, because that's one thing for those people in medical school especially can take advantage. And I think what I'll encourage people, if you are thinking of doing graduate medical education, your university has collaboration, has collaborators. Try to find, I mean, when they come in, interact with them, don't shy away. Try to build relationship. Relationship is very important. Show interest and build relationship, genuine relationships. And then through those people, you can have opportunities to come and rotate. And I'll really advise those people, like I have friends who have children who are in medical school and things like that. I strongly advise them when they finish their 4th year, they have done their 1 year solid clinical rotation, they understand their clinical medicine, to kind of come elective in the US to do as a medical student. As a medical student, you come to a teaching hospital, you really do everything medical student can do. So that way you get to see other medical students, you get to see people applying for residence, you get to meet attendings, you get to get people who will write reference letters for you when you apply your residence. So I didn't want to expose all these things which will need to come in the future, but really getting any experience you can get in the US will add immensely in your application. You'll seem as somebody who knows, although if you have not even done that, it does not stop you. So if you're in a position you can do it, well and good. If you didn't think it's important, now you know it's important, try to work towards that. But it should not discourage you if you don't have the resources, the means, or the connection to do it, because people have been able to connect even to succeed even without doing it. So it's really important for you to kind of think along those lines and to prepare yourself to give yourself an upper hand. So when I talk about application, I mean, those people, I mean, I think it will be the opportune time to talk about the things they need to do, the things they need to prepare, how to give themselves an upper end and self themselves better so that they can march into programs and be able to pursue the things they want to pursue.
Along the same lines, somebody asked about research opportunities. How important is research? And I believe your plan is, as we have a smaller group of people who are committed to the process, already have a USMLE number, you'll be in a better position to kind of guide those folks. But maybe just talk about the importance of research experience in the application process.
I mean, if you have, it's good, it's something to have, looks good in your CV. It will separate you if a program like is research heavy, knowing that, you know, you have some publication under your belt, you stand out. But as I said, residency is done in the clinics, in the community hospital, and the university. Community hospital and the clinics, they hardly anybody cares about research. I mean, for them, they focus on patient. Yeah, they do research on the side, but it's not a big thing. So it's not a make or break, but is that thing like, is it good if you have it? Yeah. Will it help you? Yeah. If you don't have it, is it the end of the world? No. You know, that's the way I'll clarify it, you know.
Nice, nice. I think that's well said. I think we're doing really good for time. There's another question here on the side, but maybe other people are thinking about this regarding how to bring in your spouse once you match into residency and now you want to bring your family over. Can you maybe comment on that? I'm sure that depends on your visa status and all of that, but just in general comments around people who may have to relocate their family after they match into residency.
Excellent. Actually, that's very good. And Mabus, excuse me, I'll use you as an example. So when you come for residence, you can come in as J visa or H visa. So for example, Mabus is H visa, it's H1. His spouse is going to be H4, who is dependent of H1. So as we are talking right now, I think his spouse is flying into JFK. He'll be rushing from this call to go and pick her up. So her family is joining him. And so it's not uncommon. And when you are J, your spouse becomes J2. So J and H, you know, visas are like A to Z. But there's one big difference I want to explain. Like J is training visa. And when you are giving J, it comes with a caveat that you'll go back to your country for 2 years after training. But then there's a J visa waiver. There's a program you can go through where you waiver the mandate to go back to your country and then you can do other things. So it's not really like a death sentence cast on stone. But the advantage of having J compared to H is if your spouse comes as J2, J2 spouses are allowed to have work permit and they can work. So they can, I mean, depending on what the profession they have work permit and they can find a job, work, and get some income to supplement the family. So, I mean, to kind of do other things. In real sense, with your residence salary, you can live with your family pretty comfortable. You don't need any extra money. But if your spouse is here and she wants to work, she can get the extra money too. So, in real sense, in terms of I've never seen a resident having any problem bringing their spouse or their significant other, their children to join them. Programs are very supportive, knowing that when we have you whole here and your family is here, you can concentrate and you can do your work better and you can train better. So programs will go above and beyond if there's any hiccups to help their residents kind of, and for the 8-9 years I've been associated with graduate medical education, I've never had a single case of somebody trying to bring their family or anybody, their loved one from any part of the world and having any problems.
Phenomenal, phenomenal. Thank you so much, Dr. Koola, for that. I think now may be a good chance to allow our co-panelists to kind of chime in. They've been helping us a lot on the chat session, but maybe I can call on them if they're ready. Amir Mbonde, if you're ready, maybe you can chime in and maybe give us 2-3 minutes your words of advice for our aspiring applicants. Karibu.
Sana Frank. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, James, for the wonderful 101, 360 overview of everything. You guys are quite fortunate to have this exposure. Yeah, I mean, when I recall when some of us started way back, it was really spotty information that you could get here and there, like James said. I want to make a comment on financial strategy. James alluded to this, but I think that sometimes it's a point of malaise or a point of fear. People, when you go and look at, you make a research and see how much the process costs, and you just become malaise, and you're like, this is not for me. This is completely unaffordable for me. As you can see, all of us here on the panel, we may look, flashy right now, but honestly, we are all normal, average family background East Africans, perhaps even below average, family background, socioeconomic wise, and we just pulled ourselves up by just planning and working hard and making sure that we continue to work to pursue our dreams. So the first step in this journey is to say, let me do a research about this, and I applaud you all for attending this session. You want to make a research and say, is this what I want to do? Is this really a journey that I truly believe in and that I want to do? Do I want to go to the US for USMLEs? And if I do, why? Okay. Have your whys written down, because the journey is long and hard, and it will require you to have a solid focus, solid reason, everything well laid down. Once you have your why down, then you make a educational plan, which James has elaboratively talked about, but you also need to make a financial plan. What does that mean? Get a spreadsheet, do your math, and say, how much will step 1 cost? How much will step 2 cost? How much will step 3 cost? The figure will be scary if you look at it, but don't be afraid. It's like just know that it's like Frank said, it's probably like a 2-year journey. And so it's bits, you will be making financial contributions to this plan slowly by slowly. So you say, okay, I will do my step 1 at this time, and this is how I plan to get the money. This is how I plan to save for it. No one is going to give you a handout. Okay. People may chime in and give you a loan here and there, but the loan will come in only when they see you're serious. You have a 260 on your scores, you have a 250, 270 on your scores. That's when people will chime in. But yeah, don't be afraid. Make a solid financial plan. Don't go into it thinking that it's too hard or too easy, but with a plan, anything is possible. That's all I wanted to say.
Great. Thank you so much, Amir, for tackling that head on. Many times folks get easily discouraged. And again, I think just in the aspect of trying, success begets success. So you just studying hard on your first aid book will already distinguish you from all your classmates who are not studying using first aid. That alone will already differentiate you. So as you're becoming successful, people are going to look at you different. You're going to be the student who actually knows the answers, who can put stuff together. So that automatically will kind of like increase your confidence. And so when you come to these other hurdles around finances and so forth, people are more likely to support you if they feel that you're already doing well. So I think just taking the first step and being part of this community that James Koola and his colleagues are building with the USMLE number, you're going to be surrounded also by people who are striving. And that in and of itself is going to propel you to work harder and also like probably succeed just by, seeing good examples of, positive role models. And I think I can't emphasize that enough. Folks are looking for mentors. There is no better mentor than a positive role model. And I think the fact that Dr. Koola is being very intentional in putting this group together and slowly advancing you through the different steps, I think that's probably the best thing you can do for yourself at whatever stage you are, just being surrounded by positive role models. Because again, if you rely on social media, random connections, some of those random connections can easily derail you because they may not necessarily have your best interests at heart. So enough from me. Over to you, Barbara, if you would like to please share a few words with our participants. Karibu.
Hello, my name is Barbara Dark. I'm from Kenya, and it's so nice to see all of you represented here. Hello to whoever's from Somalia and Ghana and Nigeria and all over. Yeah, so thank you so much, Dr. Koola. This has been phenomenal once again. I think just a tidbit I'd like to add would be make sure you look at the deadlines, because you can be reading for a whole year, finish your exam in, I don't know, maybe December, and you've already missed the match period for that time. So it's just good to know when are the exact match times, when are the applications due, and then have set your reading schedule according to those times. Because if you're coming from out of country, you also need to take into account the visa times. Yeah, so just look and see and set, okay, this is the time I want to do, and put that in a calendar, put your reading schedule according to that. And then the other thing is documentation. Like I shared last time, I was the first person to ever apply from my school, which meant really tagging all the people I could to just try and sign all the documentation to get that approved. Because even when I'd finished everything and then I was going to, now the match season came, when I had to email the NRMB board and tell them, hey, I've done everything, but my school is not here. Thankfully, they were able to add it. So everybody who's from Kenyatta University, thank you so much. Please give a shout out on the chat. But just to tell you, put all your documentation in order. Don't say, okay, I'm going to read first and then start my documentation work. No, just start it, get everything verified as you start reading. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I mean, I thank you for bringing that point. I can't emphasize this timeline because people hear 18 months. Some of them hear, oh, that's a short period of time. And some people hear that's like a lifetime.
Yeah.
So it can be very fast, 18 months, or it can be like a very long 18 months. But just to understand that probably from when you take your step 1 to when you actually match into residency, it's going to be minimum 2 years, probably. I think even in the US, probably they're about on the same timeline. In the US, you're probably on an 18-month from when you take step 1 to when you actually match into the residency. So we want to have that sort of understanding. And if we have here MD1 students, the best thing you can do is to get into the USMLE group as soon as possible so you can begin to have that mindset shift. That's probably the best thing you can do at this point. So if you're like MD1, MD2, your exam is still like 3 years away, just get into that group. So at least now you can begin to see for yourself and be mentored in real time, because a lot of these things, we are sharing lived experience, which may not necessarily translate. So it's very different if you've been in a closed WhatsApp group with people who are applying in the process, as opposed to you're out there in the world, like talking to hearsay, oh, I've heard USMLE is really hard. And suddenly you're like, oh my God, somebody told me it's like really, really hard, and you're already discouraged, as opposed to like knowing like 5-10 people who've passed the USMLE exam and celebrating each other as they're moving on to like step 2 and so forth. So I can't emphasize the importance of being part, if this is indeed a journey that you want to do. And again, if you do not want to be part of the journey, again, I still would recommend at a minimum, buy the first aid book. So at a minimum, read first aid. I mean, you're going to be a medical doctor. Like, this is what global medical doctors are being benchmarked against. So, you know, you don't want to practice medicine for like the next 30 years and you don't have a lot of the basics down. So at least get that first aid textbook. But even better is to have the textbook where you're reading, but you're also part of a closed group that's slowly progressing towards your goals. I think that would be like really phenomenal. Sorry, Barbara, it sounds like you may have a
yeah. I was just giving a shout out to Milka, who's from my universities. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. That's great. Excellent. So who else? Mabusi shared. Moza, would you like to share like a little bit from your perspective how things are going? Karibu Moza.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to meet a lot of you and good luck on your journeys. The only thing I would like to share is like, do not underestimate the power of like mentorship and the power of the people on this panel. Like I am, for example, like an example of how this type of mentorship has been very helpful. Dr. Koola has been like such a great mentor to me, but I've been listening. So if you're really serious about continuing on your journey, I would highly recommend that you follow the steps, you know, like the first step right now that we've all been asked to do is to get your USMLE number. So if you show already from the beginning right now that that's what you want, this is the path that you want to go through, like definitely get the USMLE number, send it to the email that we've put in the chat, and then you will get more guidance and mentorship from then on. But I cannot stress enough the mentorship or like the guidance that, you know, like all these people on the panel, they're so busy. They have so many things to do. Just the fact that they're giving us their time should be like very valuable. And I think that we should make the most out of it. So I just want to thank you guys for hosting this and having me a part of this. So good luck to everyone.
Thank you, Moza. Much appreciated. Thank you for those comments. Guys, it's real. She is actually in the game right now, and we wish her all the best. She is preparing for the match process this year. So back to the questions. We had one question here, Dr. Koola. Do you have to complete your national internship after graduating, or can you go straight into residency? Can you skip internship?
Apparently, you do not. They don't care if you did your internship or you did not. But so it means that if you, let's say you are preparing as you're doing your MD training, and you finish your MD5, you do your step 1, you do your CK, and you match, you can decide to go because you'll come in the US in the first year's internship year. So you're going to do your internship, you're going to do your full residence, you're going to be a licensed physician. And I think you train, you're an electrophysiologist, you go back to Nairobi, nobody will care you didn't do your internship. You're an electrophysiologist, for God's sake. So, you know, so it's like there's no really a requirement, but people do it because it's what they are doing. It's part of the process. Some people I know, they depend, they get the money, the salary they get from the internship to pay for their exams because probably that's the first time you're being paid. And so it saves money. See what works for you. It's not a requirement. People do it because it's the process, but you don't have to.
Excellent. I think you already addressed this, but maybe just one more time. How long does the document verification take?
There's no specific timeline. It depends on a lot of things. It's one slide which I said, start early because there's a lot of unknown. A lot of things are not in your hands. Why? You don't have a verified officer, just like Barbara. So which means you have to make sure the ECFMG send documents, your verifying officer signs, sends them back, they become verified, then they verify your document, and then they mail them back. So, you know, so it's a lot of hitchbacks you can hit. It's probably, I'll give it no less than 6 months, which I think there's real from the start to when you're taking the exam, you need more than 6 months to prepare. That's why I say you make up your mind. You're going to do graduate medical education in the US, start studying and start your document verification. All are the same goal. You cannot be too early. It's what you're supposed to do. but give yourself around 6 months, depending on the logistics and everything. It can be early, but why? It's not affecting you anything. You're still studying. You're trying to get ready to be able to take the exam and pass well. And it's just one of the things that you have to roll them over, but you have to start it.
Awesome.
Sorry, can I just make a small comment?
Yes, please.
Thanks, Dr. James, for the previous question you answered, but I would just like to comment. There are some schools, there are some med schools which before you graduate, you have to do your internship and then you get your medical degree. So for those schools, obviously you have to complete your internship, get your medical degree, and then you can apply. But for other schools like in Tanzania, where you graduate first and then you do your internship, then obvious you can apply even before doing your internship.
Good clarification. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And again, somebody asked this again, Dr. Koola, for getting USMLE number, does it require some special documents, like the document verification process, or is it just you go in and you say, Frank Minja wants a USMLE number, and you just wait in 5 days, you get your number?
That's it. You don't require any verification or anything. But what I say is they make you a test. Make sure you use your real name in your IDs and in your passport, because you're using them. There's no way you have a normal name controversy, Mohammed, and those Mohammed with I and without I, with M and double M, and then you'll be able to take the exam. These things, everything now is artificial intelligence, computer reading this. You know, human being, you can read it the way you want to read it, but the computer will read it exactly. So you don't have to. You don't have to have any documentation. You can go in, put your information, and they'll send you the USMLE number. They will wait for verification to move to other steps, and that will come from your medical school administration. That's why then they'll differentiate, oh, this was a plumber trying to do USMLE. You know, you're not a doctor. So awesome. That's the essence, yeah.
One comment here on the side that may benefit people to comment on, just very generally, is the difference between a J and an H visa. And also this is coming from, which may be a situation where people are starting their young families and they're trying to figure out, can they moonlight? You know, does that depend on your visa status? How do you support yourself? Can they make extra income? So the difference between J and H, and can you moonlight to get extra income to support your family and so forth while you're doing residency?
I mean, in terms of moonlighting, I won't call it moonlighting to support your family, because by the resident salary, you can support your family. You're moonlighting because you are building your mansion in your village. So you're doing extracurricular stuff. Because, I mean, in broad number, according to state, the cost of living, as a resident, you'll make between 70 and 90,000 a year, US dollars a year. So it's more than enough for you to live anywhere in the US, where, you know, the averaging, I think the average, if you average the GDP, is like 45,000. So you're way above the minimum wage, which people get and they live. So you will be able to live. But in terms of moonlighting, really, it really depends. It's program by program. If you don't have free working visa, of course you can moonlight in this program by program, meaning that there are programs which, even if you have the paperwork and everything as part of residence training, you cannot moonlight. And we put it very clearly in the website for you to see. So you decide if you're applying or you're not applying. In our program, is not really, you know, you're not supposed to moonlight. That's their rule, and you won't moonlight. Even if you want, you are ready and you have everything you need to take. So, and then in terms of any work visa in the US is tied to that employer you're working with. So you find most people, they will moonlight within the same institution, but also the visas are limiting. But who else to talk more about this more than Amir? Amir, jump in, because about those moonlighting and J and the
yes.
Financial plan.
I was itching to jump in. I was itching to jump in. I would like to, so J1, so some institutions will allow you to moonlight. So when I was at Mass General Hospital in Boston, so most of those, say I'll just speak about the hospitals in Boston. because that's what I'm familiar with. But there are hospitals that are heavy in terms of caseload, and so they go through periods where they need residents to moonlight within the institution. If you have a J1, one of the major disadvantages of J1 is that you cannot moonlight, regardless of whether it's within the institution or outside the institution. And there's a question from Philo Monen, I think. Sorry, I didn't catch the name there, saying, what is moonlighting? Yeah. Moonlighting is working on the side in order to earn extra income in addition to your prescribed salary. So it's extra work, basically.
It's like working at Mulago and elsewhere, or working at Muimbili and elsewhere, working at Kenyatta and elsewhere. Exactly.
Or working at Kenyatta on your usual shifts, but also taking up additional shifts, you know. So yeah, so there are institutions that will allow you to do that. MGH will allow you to do that, but if you are on a J1, forget it. No moonlighting. If you're on H1B, you could moonlight, but only at your institution. You cannot moonlight outside of your institution. Mayo Clinic, where I am at the moment, will allow you to moonlight within the institution. They have, some, easy tasks for residents and fellows here and there. Okay, but that said, I think the most important point to make here is that as an IMG, I would strongly recommend to not moonlight. I cannot stress that firmly enough. The salary, like James has said, should be sufficient to make you live and also send a few coins back home. So the focus is for you to train, get a good education, be an excellent clinician, and show that you are focused. Because as soon as people start to see that you are not focused, and then if you have trouble here and there, or score poorly on an in-service training exam, or you have issues here and there, or somebody just doesn't like you for some reason, you're moonlighting, that can be held against you. So I would strongly recommend against that. And then, but as a fellow, maybe you have some leeway. If you're done with residency, you're doing fellowship, you have some time. You can consider that, but outside of fellowship, even as a fellow, I have not done it. I don't recommend it. But if you can, I think it's fine. As a resident, absolutely not. Then can you do Uber, for example? Some people are so entrepreneurial and they're like, I'll be a resident, but can I also do Uber on the side? Or can I go and work at a cafe and sell coffee or something like that? Yeah, also, I think if you can do it and you're passionate about it, it's fine. But I mean, that would mean taking away your only free time. There's not a lot of free time during residency. So again, absolutely not. And from a IRS or reporting standpoint, that earning will still have to be reflected on your tax submissions at the end of the year, and that could cause you problem, because as a visa holder, you're not supposed to take away jobs of other regular Americans, is the way they put it.
Yeah, those are great points. And I'll just emphasize again, your focus is to invest on yourself, and the best thing you can do is to stay focused during your training, because not only are you training, but you're also being evaluated. This is what we call anytime you show up in these environments, basically people are sort of evaluating you and trying to decide whether or not they would offer you the next position, whether or not they would write you like a good recommendation. So if your mind is elsewhere, that you're having to like, work all these extra jobs on the side, and you have all these other obligations, you just kind of come across as not being very focused. You may be doing just average, and as an IMG, you really cannot afford to be average because you're not going to get the best opportunities and so forth. So in those four or so years of residency, I would definitely focus on your residency and just be the best resident that you can be. One more question here on the difference between J and H and whether the green card can have any benefit in this process. James, can you briefly just maybe summarize, of those three choices, which one is the better one, and so forth?
I mean, there's no better one because, I mean, as you look, program directors are we try to evaluate people to bring you in. I'm going to look, I mean, do you have solid medical knowledge? Are you going to pass the boards when you finish here? Because we want our board pass to be 100%. So if you have mediocre scores, you have 198, while the pass rate is 195, and you have all, I mean, but you have like other, you don't have a solid clinical background, there's nobody's gonna take you. So really, your first one advocate is you are passed well, you show you can train, and when you reach there, you concentrate. And I wanted to add on what Amir was saying. If you are doing, let's say, extra work, you're doing moonlighting, you are a trainee. So we expect you on the time when you are not on the floor, you are studying and preparing for your boards. You are studying and learning the cases that you saw. You are doing research, you are publishing, you are preparing your life after residence. So there's no real time of going and getting $5 and $10 from there. You ignore that, you consider yourself a trainee, you immerse yourself, you perfect your craft. You make yourself a better doctor, and that's what will give you money back. So I see a question pouring between H and J. H is predominantly a work visa, and H, depending on either it's a non-for-profit or is a for-profit business, have a cap or it doesn't have a cap. J is a training visa, J and F, but J has a caveat, it has to go home, or F they use mostly for colleges and universities, like regular training, somebody coming to do masters. When I came for my MPH, I came under F visa. And then I got a job, started working with University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. I had a H visa, which is a work visa. I sponsored my family with H4 dependents. And then I transitioned from there to green card and like that. So Professor Minja, we didn't invite Habib to give us a few words. And I think we should have also Mangaro kind of provide some insight apart from the one which he explained, to kind of have all our panelists have shared their word of wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. Habibu Karib-san.
Thank you so much. Thank you, all the mentors, all the organizers for having this great opportunity. And I would like to say that you guys are really grateful to have this opportunity to get an insight of how the USMLE journey is like. Because I can remember back then when I was starting to prepare for the USMLE, I didn't have any information and I didn't know what to do. So I had to start in searching here and there in the internet. And then I got into the contact of Dr. Koola over Facebook, and I texted him a message, and then he replied me. And from there on, then I started to get some sort of mentorship and all that. So basically, I would just like to emphasize on the dedication on the process, and also to start early as early as you can, because verification sometimes takes some time. And then, I would advise you start with to have your passport before requesting for USMLE ID, because to avoid name issues. I had also issues of name and all that, but I would recommend to start with a passport first, and then you go with USMLE ID and the process then forward. Also, I'd like to add that this USMLE knowledge doesn't only help you for residency match, but also it helps you in your clinical practice, in daily practice. And myself, the witness, because it helped me and it makes me a different doctor, because here in my clinical practice, I can easily diagnose some stuffs, and you can pick very different things from the clinical practice perspective. So much has been said. I don't have much to add, but I'm really grateful for this opportunity, and I would like you guys to start early in this journey, and good luck for everything.
Asante sana Habibu. One question before you leave. When did you apply for USMLE number? Just to hear, like, when did you apply and how did you decide to make that move?
Yes. Thank you so much for asking, Dr. Minja. I started to have a little bit of knowledge on USMLE when I was an MD5 student, and it's during that time I contacted Dr. Koola to ask for advice. So literally I applied for my USMLE number in my final year of medical school, MD5. So from that, after I finished my medical school, and then I started a compulsory internship here in Tanzania, we have it. And it is during that time of compulsory internship, it is during that time I started to study for USMLE. So after finishing my internship, and it is when I was done with the USMLE, and then I did my first exam, step 1, and then after 6 months, I did my step 2. Here now I'm applying for the residency. So because I didn't have an opportunity to get information earlier like you guys do, and you're really lucky for that. So I started late to have my USMLE number in the final year of medical school. But I would advise these guys who have got this opportunity, for those who are in their medical years of training, maybe to have it early.
Awesome. Asante sana. Karib sana. Mabusi, few final words and then back to Koola. Karib Mabusi.
Thank you so much. So just to introduce myself, my name is Mangaro Mabusi. I'm a PGY1 internal medicine resident here in New York City. I have an interest in medical education, clinical reasoning, ultrasounds. Hopefully, trying to get into palm critical care in the future. So thank you so much, Dr. Koola, Dr. Frank, and everyone who is joining this forum. I think it's a good opportunity to the colleagues who are trying to apply in this process to get some information and insights. Just to mention, like Habibu has done a good job on this preparation. We are really proud of you, and we hope you get into residence. And for everyone else, I would just like to say you have to follow what you really want. You can practice everywhere. You can work anywhere you wanna work. If you really wanna come to the US and train here, it's like a lifetime opportunity. You come here. This is the best medical system in the world, and you get to train among the best physicians in the world. You train evidence-based medicine. Essentially, if a drug is approved today, you can prescribe it tomorrow to your patients. If there's any like a new study out there which is like shows evidence in some kind of treatment to patients or something like that, you'll be able to take this into your practice. So essentially, it's a good way to practice and help patients if that's what you want. So hopefully you get into the process, you pass your exams, and you come here. Just the final thing I would like to say, everyone is trying to tell you you can get your first aid. Just to mention, like no one here is trying to is getting money or is getting anything. If you get that first aid, it's just a recommendation. And yeah, just giving advice, and this advice does not represent any of our employers. So thank you so much and all the best.
Yeah. Mangaro, we lost him.
Mangaro, he finished. I think he finished with the disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly. Two quick, a couple of questions here, Koola, as you're closing. Is it okay to have a middle name initialed in your academic certificate, but then you have a full name in your passport?
What I've learned is that they most insist on the first and last name. So as long as your first and last name are solid, either you have initial, you don't have initial, it doesn't really ripple the waters. So your first and last name are solid, you're good to go. I think I saw that question.
So you don't have to change it for the academic.
You don't have to change anything, no.
Okay, that's that. Materials, will these be available in PDF, or are you sharing? How are you sharing the materials you presented?
The material, you mean the
presentation,
the slides? No, we will. So what we do is, everybody here, anybody who participated, we ask you to register, and you registered with your email. So what we'll do after this, we'll go to Zoom, download all the email contacts. I will open USMLE, we will open USMLE Pursuit and email everybody who registered. We had, I think, more than 350 people register. I think the maximum we had on this call was around 83, kind of fluctuating from there. So there's a big chunk of people who registered. Probably they had no power, they had no bundle, they had no internet, and they couldn't come live. But the fact that you put your email in there, you will get this recording. And then, of course, the recording has all the slides, because that's what it is. And so you'll have time to go through it and decide. And what we'll do is we'll compile the questions that you posted into a PowerPoint slide and kind of send them as well to the email. And the email that you receive communication from, that's where you will forward your USMLE number when you get it. And then we'll put you in the special group, which in 3 weeks, we're going to talk about how to study for the exam. What do you need according to where you are? And kind of give you that that jolt of energy, and then we move on along the spectrum.
Yeah, asante sana, Dr. Koola. I think people are warming up and more questions are coming in as we're finishing, but we do intend to finish on time. One quick question here, I think we're going to have this as the last question, is that what about those who are already doing residency in Africa and want to come to the US for super specialty? Let's say you're doing medicine in Kenyatta, now you want to do cardiology in the United States. Will you have to repeat your residency in the United States?
Thank you very much. This is a very good question, and I'll answer it very robustly this way. Even if you are trained in Tanzania, you are super specialty, you are a professor, you have 400 publications, you cannot touch patient in the US as independent licensed without doing USMLE, full stop. So everybody goes through USMLE. Now I'll give you a caveat. We have had people from Iran, from India, who are highly trained. They are professors, they have done publication. What they'll do USMLE in their country. And then, like, let's say they are radiologists, they'll apply for a fellowship. They'll come and do a fellowship first. And then, but by doing the fellowship without residence, they can still not get independent license. So for them, if they want to get independent license, they'll go back and do the residence and then do the 360 back door and come to have that independent license. So it's USMLE is part and parcel. You don't want to do USMLE. US is not for you. You're not going to cross it. Yeah, you can do fellowship. And if you are real good, sometimes you can do fellowship without the USMLE. Very few cases, very standing up, but you won't be able to get independent license. Never.
You won't be able to get board certification. Even the example of radiology, you can do your fellowship, but to basically get the board certification, which is really what will allow you to be allowed to practice, because the hospital will need to do credentialing. What we haven't spoken is, when you apply to be an independent practitioner, you have to practice in a hospital. The hospital has a credentialing committee. The credentialing committee requires to see those things checked. If you don't have that, they can't credential you. End of story. So it's like basically you can't work basically. So all of this licensing stuff is to prepare you to become a worker in a medical facility. Every medical facility has to credential, means has to verify that the people working there have the requisite training and licensing and so forth. So there is no way to escape it, and that's that. Really, I think, Amir, I'll give you the last one so we can really close. People are really warming up, but it's
Frank, just after you give Amir the last one, I think, I mean, it seems there are many questions, and what I would like to give is just probably the last 2-3 minutes. If anybody has a burning question is here, I mean, they have been hanging here with us for 2 hours. I'll hate if they go with their questions unanswered. We'll give them, if somebody has a question, something we have not explained, you think about it, raise your hand, and then we'll give you the last 2 minutes to kind of, you ask, we answer, and then we let you go in peace. Go, Amir.
Thank you, Prof. Minja. I could not live without saying this. So every year they have this green card lottery calls that go out. The chances of getting are very slim. Last year, there were 22 million applicants for the DV lottery green card, and they only issue out 50,000 per year. But it's free. It's every year. It doesn't cost you anything. Please apply. You stop being eligible for it once you get a training visa. And then with regards to the training visa, I would strongly encourage that you apply. When you're applying, you should make sure that you're eligible for both the J1 and the H1B. If you get the H1B, it's much better compared to the J1. I've been on the J1 for my sixth year now, and I would rather be on the H1B. So if you can get an H1B, that's better. And the only thing you have to do to be eligible for H1B is to have done a step 3 exam already. And from James' talk, he emphasized the need to do step 3 anyway. So if you're going to do step 3, just do it. And then there was a question about, do I need to go back to Kenya if I'm on a J1 visa? No, absolutely not. There are very many ways of staying. I am on a J1, I am staying. So don't worry about that. Thank you.
Asante sana Amiri for that ground truth. You couldn't say it better. Yes, the green card is definitely way more easier for you because not too many programs offer these H1B or the J1 visa to begin with. So that's always another like hurdle to pass. And so if you apply for the lottery and you have your green card, that's one less hurdle for you when you are applying. I haven't seen any hands raised. But again, Dr. Koola, I'll give you the last comments, and maybe Barbara, we can just drop the email again to remind people where to send their questions and concerns, so at least the team can also respond to them whenever they have a chance. Karibu, James, for the closing remarks. And the reason we cut this short is because we also share it on YouTube. And usually if you make the video longer and longer, it becomes difficult for people to process and also difficult to upload and so forth. But I think we've shared more than enough information to encourage you, if you're so inclined, to get a USMLE number. I think that's the main take home. So then we can go on to the next step. But Karibu, Dr. Koola, for closing remarks. Karibu.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you to my panelists, and thank you for the people who managed to attend. I mean, information is power. That's what I tell people every day. So share the information you got today wisely with your friends. I mean, if your friend or your neighbor or your classmate applies, does not really impinge your potential. I mean, last year through ERAS, we recruited PGY1 40,000 people. And of these, 21,000 were IMGs, international medical graduates. So the pot is big. You're not going to obstruct anybody. He might be interested in pediatrics, you're interested in surgery. They are all two different animals. You go through different routes. So share wisely, share with your friends, educate them. You know, the more, the merrier. If you have you surround yourself with people with positive energy, you can work together and just make sure you don't pick up bad friends and then you end up sluggering instead of progressing forward. But one thing I really want to point out is each one of us is very busy. We really try to dig down within our time slot to get this time to do this. Do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Before you ask anything, Google it first. You know, if I have to Google to answer you that question, most likely I'm not going to answer you. I'll tell you, go and Google it. And don't take it like a disrespect or, you know, this guy is acting out, anaringa, nini. It has nothing to do with that. You have to be industrious. You have to be a self-starter. You have to take ownership. Then when you come, you know, I looked at this and this and this, and then you are asking me about options like I'm stuck here, but you are coming like, Sasa, where do I apply for USMLE number? Really? That should not be the question. So let's be industrious. Let's take initiative. You know, let's try to roll the balls. Thank you. Respect people's time, and, you know, and let's get things done. And as you keep doing, you show your commitment, you show your things. People are there to help you. Help is there. But don't be a burden and bother the people who are helping in such a way that they don't help even the people who are in need. So that will be my last request to everybody. And thank you so much for participating. And thank you, Frank, for setting the platform.
Thank you, guys. Really, really appreciate it. Looking forward to training with some of you, or maybe some of you will take care of us. So please study hard. And again, we're not getting paid by First Aid, but nothing makes me more excited than when I see bright young students who are performing. This really makes me, like, you know, super excited. We train lots and lots of people from all over the world. And I know many folks in East Africa are extremely intelligent, but sometimes they don't have some of this back information in order to really set them up for success. So Karibuni sana. We'll see you on the other side when you have your USMLE number for more information. Karibuni sana. Have a great rest of your weekend. Asanteni.